All right. Got to make sure I'm checking all the technology and everything's in place. It is. It's live. It's okay. It's the last one. Welcome, everyone, to the School of Business and Technology at Louisiana Delta Community College's final presentation in Global Entrepreneurship Week 2022. My name is Ryan Pierce. That is the least important thing that I'm going to say today, because what's more important is my guest across the table from me. This gentleman, I remember meeting him way back in 2010 when I was an adjunct, a part-time instructor at LDCC. That's when I first started off. And ever since then, he stayed with LDCC for a while as a computer support specialist, and then he moved on to bigger and better things, which he'll talk about, including his own entrepreneurial venture, which is the whole reason why he's here. So if we can get a big round of applause, not just from me, but from our live studio audience, you got to be loud now so the mics can catch you. Welcome, Mr. Cameron Brister.
Woo! Thank you so much for having me.
We really appreciate this. This is such a treat. You know, I think this visit is long overdue because, first of all, you're like, it's been a while since you've been here. I feel, it's been a while since you've been on the third floor at least.
Yes.
So I've come to know. And we just haven't seen you, but we've been hearing things about you. And whenever you have success out there in, can I say, the real world, right? Outside of LDCC, and then you kind of come back and you're willing to talk about that and share the successes, that's always exciting. So can't wait to dive into this one. And so we'll just get right to it. You know, please, if you don't mind, introduce yourself, who you are, tell us a little bit about the history, your ties to LDCC, and then where you are now.
Sure. So my name is Cameron Brister. 7 years ago, I worked out here at Delta Community College. I actually started out here as an IT intern while I was going through the computer science program at ULM. And actually worked here for 4, maybe 4.5 years, left in 2012, but started out as an intern here. It was a really great time in Delta's history. You know, we started out, when I started here, we were at the Conan building on ULM's campus.
Sure.
And we had the Eastgate Shopping Center was also a location. And then we even had a place down on Jackson Street for some of the workforce stuff. So Delta looked a lot differently back then. But it was so cool to be here during the transition when we built this beautiful new campus.
Right.
We took on the technical schools. So it was a really cool time to be here at Delta through all of that, even just outside of the technology piece. But, kind of going back to that, this is where I really kind of cut my teeth in technology. And just it's been great ever since.
Yeah, I mean, I remember some of the fantastic things that the IT group was implementing at the time. Seemed to me at least to be kind of on the edge, really organized, had a really tight team, still have a great team to this day. Tell us though, when you left LDCC, what happened right after that? Did you go to another firm or where were
so
you?
I've got a varied background in IT. Actually, I started my business while I was here at Delta.
Okay.
But that was on the side, started as a side hustle. And when I left here, a couple of various roles. I did some contract software development work for a e-commerce company out of Beaumont, Texas, that was actually later acquired by Capital One. And then from there, have got experience, again, started here with education IT, and then moved into manufacturing technology. And so for many years, actually ran the IT infrastructure group for North America for a paperboard and packaging company. So that was a lot of fun.
Wow.
Yeah.
When you say I ran the operation for a global conglomerate, basically, but I ran North America. I mean, well, I'm running an entire continent.
Yeah, to
here.
be clear, we had a great team, and so I was responsible for specifically the infrastructure components within North America, specifically within the paperboard mills.
Okay.
So we had locations in the U.S. and Canada, so I got to do a lot of traveling and really got to dig into that, and that was a lot of fun.
So now, fast forward, after working for a global enterprise, what was it that made you decide, I think I want to do something different? Just walk us through that process.
Well, actually, I can take that desire back to the beginning, even when I was here at Delta. Of course, I loved being here at Delta and everything that we did here. We had a great team. You already mentioned that. But I really, at the time, I started my company actually as a way to, for one, a little bit of extra side income there, and two, as another way to exercise the skills that I learned here and really enjoyed, and then even to learn some new skills kind of for some of the things outside of the day-to-day role here at Delta. So that's kind of how my company started. And once I got into that, it kind of became the goal. Ultimately, I knew that eventually that's what I wanted to do full time. And then from there, it was just kind of over the years building that to be a sustainable organization.
It's interesting. You started off, and the seed was planted somewhere down the road early on, like you said, when you have a full-time job. And you say, you know what, there's another, for lack of a better way of saying it, itch I want to scratch. There's something else that I need to do, whether it's to prove something to myself, you just have varied interest, beyond just what you're doing through the 8 to 5. How does one find the time, especially in the IT industry where, whatever your full-time gig is going to, take up an enormous amount of energy. Sometimes you're working, and I've seen the team here late hours. I've known them to take work home. So, in fact, being in the IT industry for a brief time myself, it was that way. So, how did you? What does it take to sort of do 2 jobs or multiple jobs at once, especially a job like being an entrepreneur, having your own small business?
For me, it was easy because it was my hobby, right? It wasn't just my day job. It was truly what I love, and still to this day. I mean, I love it. I could spend 24 hours a day. I'd rather not sleep if I didn't have to, right?
Wow.
It's a waste of time. So I picked something that I really loved, and so it's not only my passion and what I enjoy doing for work, but it's also my hobby.
Well, it's kind of like, what's that old saying? If you enjoy what you do, it doesn't feel like work.
100%. Working 18, 20-hour days, it just didn't. It's never bothered me, right? I don't necessarily always work 18 to 20-hour days now, sometimes, but yeah, no. I would encourage people to find something that you really love doing, and it doesn't feel like work.
So. You don't need sleep.
I wish. Yeah, I wish. I do. You can ask my wife.
You're an incredible human being, right? Okay, but I hear you say it's kind of true and kind of not true. Tell me about when you thought of the name, and I've messed this up a couple times, but now I've been corrected. I thought it was Square Plan IT, and then I was corrected and said, nope, it's Square Planet. And so those that have small businesses, I like to ask the question, what's in the name? Where does the name come from? Why did you choose to go that direction?
I actually came up with that name sitting in my office here at Delta one day. It was one afternoon, kind of late in the day, and some coworkers and I were kind of sitting around, bouncing around some ideas, and we came up with that name actually right here at Delta. And I wanted something that was kind of a play on words in multiple ways. So if you think Square Planet, planet, like in space, is not square, right? So planets are not square. And then I wanted something to play on the words IT. And so I replaced the ET with the IT, and the name was born. Good or bad, it's a 50-50 shot, whether or not you get it right, and that's okay.
Hey, it's very catchy, and it's certainly a conversation starter.
Yeah.
When you're at trade shows and conventions and things, and you have your banner up there, and people are asking, okay, so who do I call again?
Right.
And you have to tell them, and they probably, like I say, probably mess it up every now and then. But
no, it's okay. It doesn't offend me.
I like it. And the fact, again, hey, we can take credit. LDCC birthed, sort of.
It was. And it was absolutely started while I was right here on Delta's campus. That's right.
That's right. So now, we're talking about, I guess our audience is twofold. We're going to have some that are thinking about starting a small business, some that are already have small businesses, and then those that may have gotten out of it and maybe are thinking about, well, I might want to try that again. So can you tell us, in your experience, what the benefits of being a small business owner have been for you?
Well, I think the first thing I would say, too, is there's never been a better time to start a small business. Okay. I think that, the technology that's available today, the resources and tools and the information that's available today has just never been better. And so with that, I would encourage anybody, if that's something that you're really considering, get out there and do it. It doesn't have to be a replacement for your 8 to 5. It can be on the side. It can be something that's supplementing your day-to-day, at least to start. That's how I started. So that would be the first thing that I would encourage people. Again, it's like there's never been a better time.
I feel like I've heard that a few times. Never been a better time. And we're talking about advances in technology. We're talking about not just technology, but access in a lot of respects too.
Yep.
Tell us what your company does as a small business. What do y'all do? Do you provide access to other small businesses and resources? Are you thinking about getting into home-based, access and as far as internet and helping those who may be in trouble technologically, don't really have all the answers, don't have the keys, but they're wanting to do more in that space? What is it really? I guess the bottom line to the question, the rambling question is, what does Square Planet do?
So we like to say that we help businesses become more profitable through technology, because at the end of the day, everything's a business problem, right? We're using technology to solve your business problem. So certainly, we provide IT support. We can manage your network infrastructure and servers. We can help you move to the cloud, business email. If you need a business phone system, we can spin one of those up for you. All of those kind of core components. But then I think what really sets us apart and helps us show value outside of, the absolute requirements for technology today is we really want to understand our customers' business challenges, right? What are their challenges that they're trying to solve? And if we can understand how their business operates, then we can apply technology to help them reach those business goals. It changes the conversation from being a technology conversation to a business conversation, even though we're using technology to achieve that.
So it's interesting what you said. You're trying to solve business challenges or business problems.
Yep.
Now, one of the things that we try to teach the IT students that come through our door is just that. If you have a business, no matter what they're doing, and their infrastructure's down, they have workstations that are malfunctioning, servers go haywire, no access to the outside world, i.e. the internet.
Yeah.
That's a problem, because now they're losing money, because that time is
That's
valuable.
right.
And they
Yep.
could be generating profit, but instead now they're having to take time, pull down systems and resources, and then hope that they come back up in a reasonable amount of time so that they can continue to conduct business.
Right.
I'm thinking about most small businesses probably don't make a plan for the eventual situations that's going to happen,
Right.
where technology fails. What do you try to tell those companies? How do you structure that conversation where, hey, be ready for this? This could happen. I mean, what is some of the advice that you give some of those companies?
Well, actually, and that's a core part of what we do. So, obviously, one of our services is managed IT, where we come in and operate as your IT department, kind of an extension of your current team. So, a lot of small and medium businesses don't have internal IT resources, right, in-house. And so we can come in and work as an extension of your team to be that IT department. But again, coming back to the business side of things, we want to help you build your strategic plan. And so, most business owners will have strategic goals, strategic planning, where they want to take the business in the next 3 to 5 years. And technology is a core piece of that conversation. And we can work with them to provide the IT side of that, kind of like almost like a virtual CIO, CTO position, where we can help you be strategic in your technology and how that will help drive your business goals.
I feel like the managed services provider industry is fairly competitive. And I mean, I'm sure it's even more ridiculous in a place like Dallas or Houston or something like that. But we're thinking about Monroe. We're thinking not a huge population, West Monroe, in the overall scheme of things. There's the metro areas, it's decent, but along the I-20 corridor, you're not going to get the same numbers as you would maybe along I-10.
Sure.
And of course, in other states. How do you stand out I'm sure it's fierce out there. How do you stand out?
Yeah.
What? And this is really not just for IT, but
Yeah.
as a small business in general that is doing something that others are doing. What sets you apart, and what are some of the key elements that somebody watching this, who has their own small business, can take away from
I'll be honest with you. It's hard to sell managed IT services. It's it's kind of a long pipeline because a lot of times people aren't looking for a provider until
it's too late.
It's never too late. But yeah, it's like maybe you could have saved yourself some pain if you'd started this process earlier. Even I sometimes find it challenging. I'm always looking for better ways to explain what we do and how we provide that value. Because from a technology standpoint, my goal is to turn technology from just an operational expense. Yes, you've got to go buy a computer. Yes, you've got to have internet. Yes, you have to have a network, website, all that kind of stuff. But rather than looking at that as just a line item, of expenses, is again using technology to drive the profitability in your business, to drive efficiencies and productivity, and getting the most out of your technology investment.
Would you say that relationships matter to the small business?
100%. Absolutely. I think making those personal connections, being involved in your community, networking, that's what got us in this conversation today, right? Being in the community, networking, it's just so important. People want to do business with people, right? People want to do business with people that they feel comfortable with. And so that's when we're looking at prospective new clients too. It's like I want to do business with somebody that I like, right? And so building those relationships is absolutely core to success there.
Now, I have a personal bias, and if you've listened to any of there we go again. If you've listened to any of our, wow, okay, there we go. I promised everybody that's ever said anything about the light situation that I'm going to get that fixed. After this series is over, this is the last one, right? But my personal bias, as I've expressed a time or two this week, is whenever I think about small business, I think about me. I think about what am I going to do? What am I going to create? What am I going to bring to the table that somebody else might like? And consequently, they'll want to do business with me based on relationship, based on the work itself, etc. But as I have been reminded many times this week, a lot of times you need more than just the one person. A lot of times you end up building a team, especially as the demands grow in what you do and you get more popular. And so now you have to bring on someone else or other people to help carry the load. In your estimation, how important are managerial skills to the small business or entrepreneur? And consequently, what's one or two things that you've done in your time to kind of impart your own style of leadership into your company?
That's a big question.
Right. You're so succinct. I'm trying to get you to go a little bit longer.
Yeah. Wow. Okay, that's a huge question. Leadership skills are vital, and I would even argue, even if you're a solopreneur out there, those same skills can be incredibly useful just with your interactions in day to day with people and with organizations that you're a part of. And so I would say, nobody's born with that natural tendency. We all have certainly our unique personality types, but I firmly believe that really digging in. There's so much good content out there. Really always trying to be better, continuous improvement, learning more, being okay with kind of getting out of your comfort zone a little bit.
Right.
And it's okay if you screw it up as long as you try to do better next time.
Always.
I've learned a lot of lessons that way. But leadership is it's important. Again, I think that's a skill that can be used even in a business of one or two, but really using those skills to drive your interactions with your other relationships, with your other involvements in the community and things like that.
Okay. And so we're going to, another M word, right? We talked about management and leadership, but thinking about marketing for a second, we talked about relationships just a minute ago.
Yep.
For the fledgling small business, or for the interested entrepreneur, but maybe hasn't quite gotten their business off the ground yet. Are there any thoughts on ways to market your business? Or maybe you need to specify that to the IT industry, but what are your thoughts on ways that a small business can not blow the budget, but still be present and visible and get the word out there that you exist and that you should do business with me?
Well, something that, I've had to learn this over the years, and it's something that I'm always working on, is, when you're trying to market yourself, I think you'll find the most success when you're able to show value for your target audience. So if I just say, hey, I own an IT company and we can get you some really nice servers and computers and fancy network gear, honestly, nobody cares about that, right? But if I can come to you as a business owner and say, hey, using perhaps your existing technology stack, we can get more value out of that, and maybe you can reduce a headcount in an area that's not really making you money and reallocate that headcount to an area that is bringing in revenue for your company. And so instead of having someone in the back office processing manual stuff all day, we can automate some of that and introduce technology to those processes, and that same person can be out there selling product, selling services, forward-facing, right? So again, I think leading with your value there and leading with trying to solve a problem for somebody. I tell you what, a great resource that I found over the years in terms of building that story and really being able to connect with people is just about anything by Donald Miller. The Story Brand Framework. He's got a book, Marketing Made Simple. In fact, there's even a great book for business I would highly recommend for an entrepreneur, Business Made Simple. But some really great foundational components there to success, I think.
Wow, I like that. You gave us some things not only to take away from the conversation as far as your thoughts, your words of wisdom, but also some resources now that we can go look up and dive into ourselves. So thank you for that. I wrote all that down.
Yeah, no, I love to read. In fact, honestly, I keep a stack of several of those books at the office, and I'll send those to clients. Anytime I'm talking to somebody, I'm like, hey, maybe I've got a resource for you. Let me get that for you. In fact, I'll get you one if you'd like. I've got a stack of those.
Yeah. Hey, look, I'm all for it. I like to learn just like you. So that's good stuff. Now, I like what you said, though. Your best marketing tool or one of your favorite marketing tools, strategies, is the value proposition. And it kind of reminds me of when we teach customer service class, we'll have this discussion, and marketing classes to some extent. We'll talk about features versus benefits. And like you expressed that beautifully, because you said, I can sell you a bunch of high technology, I can sell you servers, I can tell you all the widgets and gadgets that we can put in place, but if you don't understand what the value is or what the benefit is, then it's going to fall on deaf ears.
Yep.
So you showing the value proposition, talking about automation, talking about how we can take some things that are routine, let the AI do it, let some other routine do it, and then free a person up, human capital, to be even more productive doing other things.
Yep.
Yeah, I could see that being a really great.
Case in point, I tell you what, earlier this year, we revamped our website completely, relaunched it, and have really put a focus on providing valuable content to people. And here's an example of that. As a technology person, it'd be really easy for me to publish content about check out Intel's new processor, right? Or, oh, this new MacBook Air is so great, fantastic, and they are, by the way. But again, that doesn't really speak to you. That doesn't really provide you any value. Maybe it might appeal to another technology person. But the content that we publish is really focused on providing value. So I'll give you an example. We're a Microsoft partner and focus on the Microsoft 365 and Azure technology stack. And, the Microsoft Office platform is one of 2 or 3 very common platforms out there that almost everybody is either going to have Google Workspace or Microsoft 365, right? Mm-hmm. There's some other things out there, but as a rule, most people probably already have one of those 2 stacks. But there's so much value and benefit with the tools that are bundled with those subscriptions that most people don't take advantage of. For instance, using Microsoft Bookings, if you want to automate appointment scheduling, right? And so what we'll do is on our site is we'll actually publish articles about, how to use Microsoft Bookings to automate your appointment scheduling, how to use Microsoft Teams to do X, Y, or Z. And we just publish that content for free to show, hey, there's real value to be had here. And I think that's important. I think that kind of drives home the value proposition side of it, right?
So I'm here feverishly. Oh boy, feverishly! I went to the wrong screen. Trying to pull that article up because I'm certain I'm typing. Okay,
Yeah.
well, he's saying something about something that's on his website. I got to pull this up, and I did find the article. Now, me being able to display it on screen is probably outside of the realm of possibility. Well, maybe not. If y'all give me just a second, I might be able to show it. It won't be quite as pretty as it should be, but again, we're doing this live.
Hey, yeah.
Let's see. Let's transition over and see what it looks like.
Oh,
Right?
hey, there we go.
That's
Yeah.
it. Something like that.
Exactly.
And this is an example of the blog post that you were talking about.
Yep.
And if we scroll around a little bit, skip the menu bar and use the search instead. And you guys wrote this.
That's right. Yep.
Leverage the free stock images. Yeah, that's always fun.
Yeah.
Save time by using data types in Excel. Okay, I definitely need to read this.
Yep.
But yeah, so all these things. And then if I back up a little bit, let me do this and yeah. Why use multi-factor authentication? Nice splash graphics, by the way.
Oh, yeah. I will say that, every October we participate in Cybersecurity Awareness Month with the National Cybersecurity Alliance. And so they provide a lot of great content too, and we hop in and help share that because, cybersecurity is paramount in everything today, right?
Of course. So, I mean, that's really neat. I would say, so anybody that's out there, if you're looking for some good tips, words of wisdom, tenets to live by, that kind of thing. We just want to be up to date on some of the latest and greatest in the IT space from a user's perspective.
That's right.
Presume.
Then we've got the back end covered, right?
Yeah, exactly.
We can manage all that for you.
You go to squareplanet.com. Oh,
That's
that's right.
right.
I was about to
Yeah,
say squareplan.it. I was going to say squareplanet.com.
Well, actually, that domain is valid too. But yeah.
Look at that, see? And you can do some digging into the blog post. And the link to the blog, by the way, I wanted to tell you. I think if it's me and I'm looking for blog posts, I want to find that like at the top menu. And so that's just me.
I've gone back and forth on that, putting too much up there and making it confusing. Because I'll be honest with you, that's the other thing too. If you follow any of Donald Miller's content on marketing, and he's real big on making it simple, driving people to what you want them to do. So if you visit our website, what I really want you to do is book a discovery call with me.
That's right.
Click the blue button, right? And so don't want to make it confusing. But yeah, I've gotten about 50-50 feedback on that as to whether or not the link to that should be in the header or just there in the footer. So.
Well, everybody's entitled to their opinion. I think you're doing a fantastic job regardless.
I think I'm going to split the difference, and we'll put a feed of maybe the latest 2 or 3 posts there on the homepage somewhere. You can click right into it. Actually,
Right.
I was thinking about that earlier this week. So
Look at that.
That probably seals the deal.
So going on to a different kind of question, right? It's fun to celebrate the triumphs, and talk about, there we go with the lights
Yep.
again. I'm not even going to hide it anymore. I used to just try to switch screens and we're not doing it anymore. Talk about the triumphs and talk about the benefits of being a small business owner and all the wonders of, I could be my own boss and I could have more control, I feel like, of my schedule and my life potentially. I don't know, because some people say you're going to do a lot more work
Yep.
as an entrepreneur. But talk about some of the challenges that an entrepreneur or small business owner can face, maybe some that are pertinent to you as you were getting into the space. What were some of the things that maybe you want to either give people a heads up about, or just say in general, these are some things that either me or my colleagues have experienced that are to be considered before jumping into this space?
Yeah. One of the challenges that I think anybody will face, especially if you're starting it out like I did as a side hustle, is those first few clients are really exciting, right? I mean, it's just invigorating. And it's a lot of fun. And you keep that up and you keep, on that pace. And at some point, it becomes really hard to balance because you've got so much work on the side that you're doing, but then you're still juggling that full-time 8 to 5, right? Mm. And you might not be able to just step out of the 8 to 5, even though you've worked up some great business, you've got some great clients, maybe you've been really successful in your day job and whatever career that is, and so it becomes harder sometimes to step off into that. So I would say there's kind of a tipping point there where it goes from really fun to really stressful, and you question yourself sometimes, can I really do this? Is this really for me? Because it's not always fun. So I would say that's a challenge, especially, again, if you're starting that as a side hustle. The other thing is I'm that guy that didn't want to work for anybody, or that didn't want to have a boss, per se. And I'm here to tell you, you'll always have a boss, or you'll always have someone to be accountable to. And don't get me wrong, I've worked for some great people over the years, but I'm just, it's my personality, right? I like to have full control over my destiny, and I feel a little better about that sometimes. So all of that to say is you'll always be accountable to somebody. So, me in my current role, I own the company, but you know what? I'm accountable to my customers. I'm accountable to my clients. Even a CEO of a Fortune 500 is accountable to a board of directors, right? So there's always some level of accountability. If you don't keep those people happy, if you don't keep your clients happy, they'll let you know and they won't be clients anymore. So that can be one of the challenges too. It's, it's good. And I can't remember who said it, but one of my favorite quotes is, only in the life of an entrepreneur, only in the life of a business owner, can you go from elated, ecstatic, to terrified, to over the moon again and back in the span of 8 hours.
That's a roller coaster.
Yeah, it is. It is a roller coaster. And I've experienced that, it's crazy.
It's so interesting what you just said. You talked about accountability, and you'll always have a boss. There'll always be someone that is expecting something from you.
That's right.
Because in business, right, you're trying to turn a profit, but in order to do that, you got to provide something in return, some type of good or service. And so, again, it goes without saying, when you're producing, it has to be not only must be done right, hopefully done well.
Yep.
Matching the expectations of that client as far as speed is concerned and accuracy and all those things.
And I want to just take a moment there and expand on that, what you said, because that's an important part of business. I think it's an important part of relationships in general is communication, and setting expectations and communicating very clearly, and not over-promising and under-delivering. Everybody... I think humans inherently have a desire to please other humans, and so it's really easy for people to, I can do that, and I can do that, half the time and for half the money and whatever it is. God knows I've done that too, and it's just a lesson that I've had to learn over the years. Is I would rather under-promise and over-deliver, not really so much under-promise, but really just setting expectations. And communicating that. That's so important.
Realistic goals and expectations. Yeah. I can imagine you starting your business, being so excited, like you said, you have those first few clients, and you just want to show them the world.
Yeah.
And you're going to bend over backwards to make sure that they get everything they wanted and more. And then eventually you figure out, okay, there may be some diminishing returns here. There's only so much of me.
Yep.
And I have to be a little bit smarter about what I commit myself to because there's only so many hours in a day.
Yeah.
That I could see being a big challenge, especially to somebody who's excited and they're hitting the ground running. But it's good words of wisdom for sure. Let me backtrack for a second. The first challenge you talked about was doubt. And I think you sort of answered the question, but if you could recapitulate this for a second, what's the best way to overcome those doubts?
Ooh, there again, that's a big question.
Well, hey, you're the smartest guy in the room right now.
Oh,
so I have to ask the question.
Yeah, overcome those doubts. It's kind of like I said earlier, you have to be willing to step outside your comfort zone a little bit. And I think the more that you do that, even if it's still outside your comfort zone, I think it becomes easier to do. Perfect example. Everybody tells me I'm a people person, and I do, I guess I am. But when it comes to stuff like this, my default is like, ooh, I don't want to do that, right? I don't want to hear myself or see myself or go on camera. I don't want to be the face of anything.
I can turn off the screen that's facing you if you want
that
to.
would be great. Yeah, no, so that's kind of my default. And over the years, I'm like, well, if I don't do it, there's no one else that will, right?
True.
And so you really kind of have to look at that, especially if you're starting out, like you are the guy, right, or you are the girl. If you don't do it, it's not going to get done. So yeah, I think that's what I would say for that.
It's pretty synonymous with, I feel like I'm thinking about myself here. You got to do the things that you don't want to do, you don't like to do, that don't really get you excited in the morning. There's probably, like, if I could ask what's your favorite part of the business, you might tell me, getting out, talking to people, creating the solution, working on it. But maybe there might be a part of the business that you don't really care for, like, I don't know, doing the
sales
books.
and marketing.
Okay, right.
I hate that.
Like what you're doing right now.
Right.
I can't tell. I
Right.
can't tell. So that's interesting. But you still know, like you said, you're the man, you're the guy, you're the owner, so you got to step out and do it.
Yeah.
And I would assume that overcoming doubts and fears and doing more of the things you don't want to do maybe assists with that because you get more comfortable.
Well, I mean, it helps you grow as a person, right? And again, that can be applied to so much outside of business, right? I mean, just growing as a person through that. I look at the things that I do now, some of the things I have to do now, or the things that I choose to do now compared to 5 or 10 years ago where I would have never even considered doing that or been comfortable with that. And, truthfully, most of the time, things aren't as bad as they seem like they're going to be, right?
That's right.
So.
That leads to another thought, which is, the only way you're going to grow is if you, like you said, get out of your comfort zone, you're uncomfortable, you're stretching. You have the growing pains a little bit. And you're a prime example of, hey, I'm here, and every time I do it, I get just a little bit better, a little bit more comfortable. And before long, you may never want to be on camera ever in your life. You might be Bill Gates, and at some point down the road, huge corporation, worldwide, and just still say, nope, I'd rather be tinkering. I'd rather be in the back office. I'd rather be doing those things. But by then you'll have a VP of marketing and some other folks.
That's what I'm looking forward to right there.
Which actually segues into another question. You've told us about the company and what it does. Are you allowed to tell us, and I'm doing this, Mr. Burns, right? Are you allowed to tell us about maybe any plans or thoughts for expansion or going into other markets and doing other things besides what you're doing right now?
Well, I tell you what, I'm glad you asked because I had this thought earlier this morning as I was thinking about this today. The way that my business looks now is so totally different than it looked when I started it. The very first project that we ever did we built a website for a nonprofit organization. And I think back at how much I charged for that and I laugh because it was just
pennies
peanuts.
On the dollar.
Yeah. And I was so excited. And it was great. And they got a great deal and they got a great product and I got great experience out of it. But actually, for starting out, I thought we really wanted to focus on web design, right? That's kind of where I originally started. And I really picked up those skills working here at Delta. Back in those days, the content management systems that you see today that allow kind of like the drag and drop build a website, that really wasn't prevalent. It really didn't exist.
Right, that's pretty new.
And so, so everything was hand-coded. Heck, when I, rebuilt the Delta website in 2009 or so, 2010, something like that, when we did that was all hand-coded, no, GUI to manage it. You wanted to change, you sent it to the IT department, we changed it, right?
No drag and drop.
No.
Yeah, you're right. Nowadays.
And there were a few tools like that, but they were awful. They just didn't work, and so we just put them to the side. So that space has changed. Today there's so much you can do with these online tools and stuff like that. So, my business has changed over the years. All of that to say, it's like the things that I started doing, the things that I thought would really be the key drivers, maybe once were, but aren't today. and technology changes so fast. Talking about your comfort zone, um, you know, anytime we do a project, there might be a component of that project that we've never done before. I'm confident we'll figure it out. I'm confident we can do it, and I'm always up for learning something new. But I guess all that to say that the landscape's always changing. And so one thing that's important if you're going to be an entrepreneur, if you're really going to do this thing, is know that what something looks like today, it probably isn't going to look like that in 5 years, right?
I mean, just what you're talking about, web design. At one point, I thought, "Ooh, I want to do this kind of thing too." Nowadays, with all the drag and drop, WYSIWYG, and just all it's like desktop publishing. I can pull it and place it anywhere I want to. I don't have to know anything about coordinates. I don't have to know anything about coding.
Yep.
And now, if you're going to be in the web development space, you probably have to know a thing or two about JavaScript, Node.js, React, or something like these different
it looks
tools.
Very different.
Yeah, and that's the only way you're going to make money off of that, because if it's just a matter of just a simple design, seemingly, I hate to say it, almost anybody can get up there.
It's true. It's true. And so, that's one of the things we offer web development. It's one of the things that we do. It's not as big of a focus today as it once was, but the types of work that we do is very different than somebody who wants to go, pay GoDaddy $4.99 a month to use their website builder, right? Like, that's perfectly valid. It's going to cost a little more than that to have us build a website for you, but it's very different, and so we've changed with that.
It's like yours is more customization and whatnot.
Customization, integration, the things that are not drag and drop, right? Lots of integration.
All right, so I feel like we've had a good run at your history, what it's taken for you to become successful as an entrepreneur, some kind of words of wisdom already, that came out of that discussion. And especially we talked about management, marketing, and those types of things, what you like to do, what you don't like to do, the fortitude that it takes to just kind of continue on the path. Can I ask a couple more questions, right? If you were to sum up some ideals that an entrepreneur should be focused on, what is it going to take to be an entrepreneur and to be successful? What would you say? That's my first question.
I think a successful entrepreneur starts with someone who, again, is always looking to grow, looking to be more and do more, and is okay with change, at least to some degree. I think that's, if I had to pick one thing, that would be it. Again, getting outside of your comfort zone a little bit. It's likely that you're going to be doing things you've never done before, and you might not have someone to guide you. You might, if you're lucky, but someone who can get out there and do the work, put in the work, and looking for those tools and resources. And again, there's never been a better time to start a business. Today the resources that are available and the assistance out there is just mind-boggling. When I started my business, I had to print a form, I had to fill it out, I had to mail it to the Secretary of State.
What is this?
I know.
Stone
and
Ages?
then they mailed me back a certificate, saying that, yes, you've registered your limited liability company. Today, you just go fill out online and they send you an email.
Yeah, right. They're not even printing it out for you anymore. It's up to you.
You required a notary, too.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So
this is just 2009. That's not all that long ago, right?
I know it. The other question I had, though, is more of a personal question, which is kind of, what's next for you? Whenever we talk, I feel like, there's just more kind of bubbling under the surface that you're waiting to do, that you're waiting to explore. You seem like you have a bit of a sense of adventure with the entrepreneurship ventures that you're a part of. So what's next for Cameron Brister?
Ooh, I think continuing to grow the business. One thing that I've put a focus on in the last probably 4 or 5 years is really being actively engaged in the community. And that kind of goes back to the networking aspects that we talked about earlier of being a good entrepreneur. It's really about, the people the relationships that you make, and then being able to give back and being able to contribute to that, right? Not necessarily only being a consumer, but also being a contributor. And so that's something that I've worked again, here in the last 3 or 4, maybe 5 years. And I really enjoy that, and I think that's important, and I'm going to continue to.
Wow. Well, I think that's a great way to end this wonderful conversation. I certainly don't want to cut anything off, and if there's anything else you wanted to give to the listening audience, for sure. But I mean, thinking about giving back, being philanthropic, and just maybe giving of your time, giving of your talent, resources.
Yeah.
That's what's going to help us change the landscape in the region, and really help us all to grow, because we're going to all be lifting each other up, and that's a beautiful way to kind of conclude.
A rising tide raises all ships, and it's really easy. I'll just say this one last thing. It's really easy starting out in business to think that it's a limited opportunity out there, that it's like a pie and there are only so many pieces of the pie. But I think there's enough work and opportunity out there for everybody, right? I mean, certainly we've got competitors in the area, and that's great. I'm all about small business. I think that it's just important to know that there's plenty out there for everybody.
And just go ahead and whatever it is that's out there for you, grab it.
Yeah.
And, do what you can with it. Right?
That's right. Yeah.
Wow. Well, another great session. Thank you so much, Cameron, for joining us today.
No, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
The value that you're bringing to the community, and certainly to LDCC, is excellent. And we hope to, maybe continue the conversation somewhere down the line. But with that, you know what time it is. We're going to fade the music in, because it's time for Say So Long. Thank you so much, everybody, for being here to watch. Thanks for all the support of all of our guests this week on Global Entrepreneurship Week. We're going to do this again. We most certainly will.
Love it.
But until then, take care, and we'll see you at the next great event that LDCC School of Business and Technology puts on. See you then.